There are stories buried so deep in the American backwoods that the light of day almost never finds them. Families bound not by choice but by bloodlines twisted into knots. And in those knots you will find men like Jason Whittaker, the cousin of a family the internet whispers about, but no one truly understands. Until now, you think you know poverty, you think you understand crime, you think addiction is just a personal failing. But in certain corners of this country, those things are not just circumstances. They are inheritance, passed down like a cursed name carved into bone. Jason grew up far from West Virginia's crumbling roads and hollow-eyed stairs in Crystal Lake, Illinois, but his roots ran deeper, tied to the Whittakers, a family born in isolation, whispered to be the most inbred in America. His father was the brother of their father, blood mixing with blood. When he was a boy, his family would visit these hills every year. He remembers the drive down, endless trees, the air thick and old, like it was holding on to secrets from centuries past. They would stop and talk to the Whittakers, a clan as friendly as they were strange. Nice as can be, Jason says. They would give you the shirt off their back, but there is something you learn quickly in places like this. The line between kindness and danger is thin and often invisible until you cross it. Jason did not stay here. He went back north, but the darkness that clung to this bloodline followed him. School was short-lived. He did not graduate, got his GED instead. By 17, he was already in prison for aggravated battery and mob action. 15 years behind bars over multiple stretches. Drugs came early, heroin, meth, like they were waiting for him. Just as much a part of the family inheritance as a last name. Still, when he speaks about the Whittakers, there is no disgust, no mockery, only loyalty. I love them to D. Eth, he says. And maybe that is the most dangerous thing about this kind of legacy, the way it binds you even as it destroys you, because once you are tied to a name like Whittaker, you are never just you. You are the bloodline. You are the history. You are the curse. Prison changes a man, but only if he has something to return to. Jason had nothing but the name, the habits, and the ghosts that followed him into every cell and every sleepless night. The first time behind bars, he was just 17, too young to understand the weight of years, too wild to care about the slow erosion of time. By the time he got out, the streets already knew his name. Not for honor, not for greatness, but for violence and the company he kept. He worked factories in between, places where the air was thick with dust and metal, where you punched in, kept your head down, and prayed the clock moved faster. But the pull of the old patterns was always there, a shadow whispering that the only real rush comes from breaking rules, not following them, and so the cycle tightened its grip, one arrest after another, one sentence bleeding into the next. It was not just crime that held him, though. It was the poison that seeped in early, drugs that offered escape but demanded everything in return. Heroin when he wanted silence, meth when he wanted fire, a chemical leash wrapped around his mind, dragging him deeper each time he swore he was done. West Virginia was worse for it, he admits, because here temptation is not hidden. It walks beside you. It greets you by name. It waits at every corner with an open palm and a needle behind its back. Still he visited the Whittakers. Still he spoke of them like kin you would die for. Men like Ray and Freddie who moved through the world in their own strange rhythm. Who were feared by some, loved by others, and pitied by many who did not understand the history that shaped them. In Jason's eyes, they were more than their flaws, more than the whispers about their bloodline. They were family, and that word meant something even when it hurt you. Years in prison teach you how to survive, but not how to live. You learn who to trust, which corners to avoid, when to keep your eyes up and your mouth shut. And Jason played that game well enough to make it out. But the truth is, you never really leave. The bars just fade into fences, the guards into neighbors, the cell into a small room with peeling paint, and the sentence into a memory that still dictates every move you make. Some mistakes carve into a man deeper than any blade, deeper than any prison shank. Jason carries one like a brand that will never fade. He was 20 when it happened, high, surrounded by people who lived with the same hunger and haze. He met a girl who said she was 18. She laughed, she used, she blended into the chaos like everyone else. But the truth was she was 14, and in the eyes of the law, that truth is a noose. The day he found out was not the day he could undo it. The moment was gone, the damage done, and the handcuffs were already waiting. They called it sexual assault on a minor. They marked him for life as a sex offender. And in that instant, whatever he thought his future might be was burned to ash. It was not about intention anymore. It was about the record, the label, the stain that followed him like a shadow that would never step aside. He tells it without excuses. Yet you can hear the ache in his voice. He says, if I had known, I would have walked away. I was not that kind of man. But drugs twist the mind, strip away the caution, fog the judgment until you are blind to the cliff edge you are walking. And when you fall, the world does not care how you got there. It only knows you fell, and it will remind you of that fall for the rest of your life. Prison for this was different, colder, meaner. Even among criminals there is a hierarchy, and men with charges like his are placed at the bottom. You learn to fight, or you learn to disappear. Jason fought not because he wanted to, but because in there you have no other choice. Survival is not about strength. It is about showing enough fire that no one dares test it twice. On the outside, the label still follows. It locks doors, it takes jobs, it poisons the air before you even speak. Jason says it ruined his life, not just the sentence, but the afterlife of it. The way people's eyes change when they hear. Hey, the way it strips trust from strangers, and even from your own blood. It is a wound that does not heal because the world will not let it. The Whittakers are not just a family, they are a living paradox. A web of genetics and environment so tangled it is impossible to separate cause from effect. Cousins marrying cousins. Bloodlines looping back on themselves like a snake eating its tail. The results visible in faces and behaviors that some call mental challenges, but that run far deeper, into the very soul of their history. Jason talks about the grandparents, twin brothers whose offspring created a sprawling tree of children marked by similar struggles. 14 or 15 kids bound together by more than just family ties. Bound by a legacy that no one chose but everyone inherited. A genetic echo chamber where mistakes repeat and multiply, passed like a ghost from one generation to the next. But it is not only blood, it is the environment, a place where poverty grips like a vice, where drugs flow like water, and where hope is a fragile, fleeting thing. The salt of the earth neighbors live alongside dealers and users, the good and the broken coexisting in uneasy silence. A land where opportunities are swallowed by the endless hunger of addiction and desperation. Jason says the family stays clear of drugs. They do not drink. They try to hold on to something pure in a world that offers very little, but that purity is fragile, easily shattered by the crushing weight of circumstance, the stories that never make the news, the faces you do not see, the lives you are told to forget. And in this landscape, the Whittakers are both victims and architects of their fate, trapped by genetics, shackled by environment, caught in a cycle where every choice is a battle, every breath a struggle. A family that is as much a warning as it is a mystery, a dark mirror reflecting the worst parts of America's forgotten corners. Jason's story is not just about falling, it is about the battle to rise. The scars he wears are proof of wars fought inside and outside. After years behind bars and years lost to poison, he found a thread of light in the form of a Suboxone clinic, a chance to claw back from the edge, to fight against the pull that nearly swallowed him whole. But freedom is never easy in places like this, where addiction is woven into the fabric of every street and every face. He talks about his daughters, two girls raised away from these hills in Wisconsin, his greatest joy and his fiercest reason to change. Yet even that hope is fragile, tested by years of absence and mistakes that can never be erased. He dreams of a life where he can be more than the label, more than the curse, a man who builds instead of breaks. But the path is narrow and lined with old ghosts. Around him the landscape does not forgive. The drugs are easier to find than jobs. The temptation waits patiently at every corner, and the memories of who he was threaten to drag him back into the darkness. Yet he fights, even when the fight feels lost, because sometimes fighting is the only way to stay alive in a place designed to crush you. Now listen closely, because what I am about to say is no idle phrase. It is a key to unlocking something deeper inside you. Repeat these words in the comments twice, not once but twice, to claim the transformation you seek, to let the shadows know you are awake. I am the master of my own bloodline. I am the master of my own bloodline. Say it now. Lock it in, and prepare yourself, because the truth does not forgive, and it does not wait. Places like these, the forgotten hollows of America, are not just lost by accident. They are shaped by forces you never see, hidden agendas that run deeper than the families trapped inside, governments that turn blind eyes, systems designed to control, not to help, where poverty and addiction become tools of manipulation rather than problems to solve. Jason's story is a symptom of a larger sickness, one where institutions profit from broken communities, where prisons become warehouses for human despair, and where hope is stamped out under the guise of law and order. The cycle perpetuates itself because no one wants to look too close, because seeing means responsibility, and responsibility means change, and change threatens power. The Whittakers and their kin exist in this net of silence, a family left to wither while the world moves on, their pain ignored, their story twisted into myth or dismissed as mere madness. But this is no accident. It is a mechanism of control, a way to keep certain people down by erasing their voices and denying their humanity. Jason knows this too well, the way his life has been shaped by forces bigger than himself, the way every misstep is magnified, every failure used as proof that they deserve their fate. But the real truth is buried beneath layers of neglect and exploitation, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover it, to break the cycle, to speak the unspeakable. And this is why you are here now. Because once you see the truth behind the curtain, you cannot unsee it, and that knowledge carries a weight heavier than chains. It is the burden of awareness, the first step to real power. The darkest truths are the ones we refuse to face because they threaten everything we believe about ourselves and the world. Jason's story is not just his. It is a mirror held up to the hidden corners of America, to families chained by blood and circumstance, to systems that profit from pain and silence, to the shadows that lurk behind every forgotten town and every broken soul. This is knowledge that changes you, that shatters illusions and forces you to look at reality without the comfort of lies. It is dangerous because once you see the cracks in the foundation, you cannot pretend they aren't there. You cannot go back to ignorance, and that is why it is reserved for those who seek power through truth, those who dare to descend into the abyss and come back stronger. Jason's legacy is a warning and a challenge, that blood is more than biology, that history is not just dates and facts, but a living force that shapes who we become, that freedom is not given. It is fought for, clawed from the ruins of our mistakes and the darkness we inherit. You are not here by accident. You are here because you want to know what lies beneath, because you are ready to own your own story and break free from whatever binds you. This journey is yours to take, but remember the words you wrote, the promise you made. I am the master of my own bloodline. I am the master of my own bloodline. Hold on to that as your shield and your sword. The world will try to drag you back, to bury you in its lies and fear. But now you have the truth, and with truth comes power, the power to rewrite your history and build a legacy worth leaving. Step into the light, but never forget the darkness, for that darkness holds the keys to your freedom.